because we have some new people here, and obviously we have people who have been to Hove StressBusters events before. So I'll say a bit about Hove StressBusters, what it's all about, what you can expect from this evening. And the only thing that I'm a bit, well, I wouldn't say concerned, but sort of like unsure about is how it's going to go in terms of the interactiveness. We were discussing this, Lauren and Niko and I, just before the rest of you joined us in the room. Because those of you who have been to StressBusters events before know that it's very interactive format. But here, because of the technical limitations, just so that we can see the speaker, we need to mute everybody else temporarily. So we'll mute, and then the speakers will invite, whenever they say, is there any questions or whatever, then we're going to unmute, and then anyone can join in the conversation. So we'll just see how that goes. It's slightly more formal than our usual sort of interactive talks and demonstrations. So if everyone can hear me, I hope. Let me start by first of all welcoming you all. It's so lovely to see you, and this is like a really milestone event for us. So for those of you who haven't been to Hove StressBusters before, this is a community wellbeing program that's now in its 9th year. So we've been going since 2011. And it's essentially a platform organized by a group of wellbeing practitioners. So my name is Jelena, and I'm the only person in the group. I'm the program director, but I'm also the only person in the group who is not a therapist or a coach or a wellbeing practitioner of any sort. I'm an experimental psychologist, and I've been lecturing and teaching for a number of years, so stress is my area of expertise. But everybody else in the group is sort of a well-being practitioner or therapist of some sort. So we got together back in 2011. We realized that there is a big gap. So there are so many different well-being approaches out there, and different things help different people. And yet, you know, because there is so much on offer, you might be missing out on something which is very valuable to you. So, and you won't know what's good for you unless you actually try it. But unless you have all the time and money in the world, you know, you can't really go out trying every different therapeutic approach or coaching technique or self-development approach. And sometimes even word of mouth isn't enough, because your friend could, for example, swear by craniosacral therapy, and yet you give it a go and you think, oh, this is rubbish. But that's not to say that craniosacral therapy is rubbish. It's just not for you. And likewise, somebody can say, oh, I don't know, family constellation is complete rubbish. And yet, if you give it a go, it's absolutely transformational. So it really all comes down to, oh, let me open the chat window. Hi, Steph. Hi, Stephanie. So it really comes down to this kind of experiential. We need to explore different approaches to find the ones that suit us personally. And that's how Hove StressBusters program came into being. So since 2011, we've been organizing talk and demonstration evenings at Cornerstone Centre in Hove. And each month we present 2 very, very different techniques. And the idea behind that is that very often people come because they're interested in one therapeutic approach, and the other approach, they've either never heard of it, or maybe they have heard of it, but they wouldn't necessarily go out of their way to find out more about it. And yet, that other approach might be something which is perfect for them. And that's how we always sort of try to keep the lineup of speakers, or rather the order of speakers, secret, because we want people to be there for the whole evening. And very often people are blown away by the approach they didn't really expect would have such an impact on them. So to cut the long story short, tonight we'll try to stick to the same format. So we have 2 speakers, and there will be a break in between, so we don't have our usual coffees, teas and biscuits, but you can make yourself a cup of tea during the break. We'll still be here so we can chat during the break as well, if somebody wants to chat. And yes, so it's quite interactive. It's really there to give us practical tools which we can use ourselves. And especially today, tonight, the event tonight is, I would say, although they're 2 fairly different wellbeing approaches, but there is a lot of overlap because tonight we're really focusing on techniques that are helping us survive these challenging times, which I personally am actually very excited about the time we're going through at the moment. It's quite challenging. The financial stress for most of us, apart from people who are actually in regular employment, but for other people, for most other people, this is actually extremely stressful time in terms of financial stress. But I don't know how the rest of you feel. My impression is that this is probably, putting the financial stress aside, that this is probably the least stressful period we have had as a society in the last, in the last 20 years, certainly, because people are having more time for themselves, for their families, more time to devote to the things they've been putting off forever. So I don't know if the rest of you feel the same, but I'm actually quite excited about these times. Anyone? Niko?
Well, they can't answer that. That's really funny. Yeah. So
Can you unmute everyone?
Oh, hold on.
I want to hear what people think about it.
Oh, cool. Now they're muted.
They're not.
Just to add, I think there might be an option where someone told me about this recently, where if you press the space bar, if you're muted and you want to temporarily talk, you press the space bar and that kind of temporarily unmutes you. I haven't tried it. But
well, it does work, but because as an admin, actually I muted them all, so I have to unmute them all before they can actually use that.
Can you unmute with a button? Can you unmute with just one press of a button?
Yeah, which I did. But some people muted themselves by themselves, so I can't actually.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, anyway, I'm curious. How do the rest of you? How are you finding this this period of self-isolation? Do you find it? If we can put like I said, financial stress aside, do you think this is better or worse than your usual?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Nikki. I don't know. Yes, I think at the moment it's feeling like there is a lot of potential here, for doing lots of things like this, for learning more about technology, and that's really exciting. It's just, at the moment it's all new, so we just have to wait and see if it's going to last, really. I know what you mean, Jelena. It feels a bit exciting at the moment.
Right. So, yeah.
Can I speak and then I can
yes.
I can mute myself again. I just want to say, well, in between the awful headness and the worry and the stress, especially if you know people, or in my case, one of my friends has already died.
Oh.
But from coronavirus. It's his funeral on Friday. Not locally here, locally to where I did used to live in Bedfordshire, but I've known him for 20 years.
Oh.
But in between, when you realise you are stuck on your own, I started thinking of it as a lovely time to nurture myself and to just give myself permission to do nice things. So that's my take on it.
Yes, well, that's exactly how I feel. So, God, really sorry for your loss. I mean, it's quite...
Well, it was a shock because it was very early on, and it was the first thing that came home to me,
Yes.
Hi.
Yes, Adrian?
Hi, sorry. Katie, I'm very sorry to hear that, but part of my work is as a funeral celebrant, and I think what really hit me was trying to conduct a ceremony with social isolation.
Yeah.
Horrible.
My friends are videoing theirs.
Oh, are they? I think that's probably where we're going to move on to, but it's really shown to me the value, the need for human contact, to be able to hold people when they're grieving, and to not be able to do that was really scary. Yeah. And I think I think eventually we're not going to be able to have funerals at all. So that was the downside of it.
Yeah.
I would agree that at the same time, conducting funerals is one aspect of my work. You're never relaxed ever, because you've got that family in your mind all the time. So I'm constantly checking the phone, constantly checking emails. So I'm amazed at the amount of space that's opened up now that I'm not doing that, because there just isn't that sort of work. And it's really made me realise I've had 10 years of never fully ever relaxing, except on Christmas Day when I'm not going to get a phone call, you know. So it's quite strange, but I can feel my body sort of going, oh, and the habit of, oh, I better check. Don't need to. It's marvelous. So I agree with you, Ghislaine. I'm just wondering what is going to bubble up instead.
Well, we shall see. Like exciting things, scary things, right. So we better get on with our first speaker this evening, and it's my pleasure to introduce Niko Goranovic. He's an NLP trainer, performance coach, and holistic business consultant and mentor. And he's running mindfulness sessions for quite a few years now. Well, I know because he runs them for corporate clients, for our corporate clients, but also obviously for individuals and groups. And tonight he's actually going to give us his take on mindfulness, everyday mindfulness, and hopefully give us some practical tools how to deal with stress in general, but also during this particular time. So yeah, it's your turn, Niko.
Well, usually in this point of time, I'd be, let's say, well, so stepping in and trying to be as animated as I can. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Just nod. Yeah, cool. So yeah, so basically, as I said, sorry, I can't be animated as always, as I tend to, well, do different things and move left and right and everything else. So I was thinking actually how to start this session. And then the only way for me to start this session is actually, because I know many of you are, well, interested in mindfulness, you usually, well, either meditate or do different things, but we are all, well, conditioned to hear specific, let's call them buzzwords or sounds. So one of the sounds that actually we are so conditioned to hear when we talk about mindfulness or meditation is this one. So, okay, so that's about it. Well, let's focus on something actually which I believe is going to be very useful. Unfortunately, I can't see you now, and due to my screen setup, and I can't hear because I muted you all. So I can talk and I can tell all my dodgy jokes and you can't do anything about it. So yeah, that's how it goes. However, talking about mindfulness and what actually mindfulness is, most likely you're aware that actually mindfulness is, let's say, maintaining a moment by moment awareness of your thoughts or feelings or bodily sensations or surrounding environment through, let's say, well, perceiving all the information in one go. And that's absolutely fine. Some people say that mindfulness is acceptance in terms of, yes, you should be accepting everything that is going on and there is no right or wrong answer, which absolutely it is true. But still, talking about mindfulness and how mindfulness actually came to, well, let's call it Western world, was in a silly way one of those things that people try to explore something completely different and they stumble upon this tool. Basically, most likely you heard about Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he was trying to find best ways to reduce pain with chronic pain patients, and he was traveling around the world and doing different things, and he stumbled upon about Buddhist monks and their way of life and meditation and how they actually, well, did so many amazing things in peace, not feeling, let's say, not feeling any pain. And he did some research about it. He wanted to actually bring it to Western world, but realized that, well, there is a religious part to it. And he took that away and he brought what we nowadays know as mindfulness. Funnily enough, at that time when he was trying to bring all those, let's say, practices back to Western world, he wasn't thinking about, oh, mindfulness or this actually tool or what I'm bringing to Western world will look like this in 20 years or 30, 40, 50 years maybe. But now actually where we are right now and in this particular, well, situation, we can use those particular practices in different ways. Talking about practices, those Buddhist monks, and that's the funny story, and I'm always trying to explain this to people who never practiced mindfulness in their lives before. Those Buddhist monks, yes, they had plenty of time to meditate 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, maybe 18, maybe 20 hours a day. But do we have that particular time? No, we don't. Maybe nowadays we have some time, just like 6 hours. Yeah, like a joke that I had the other day, and it goes basically like this. I woke up this morning, had 3 meals, slept 2 times, and it's still today. So maybe they do the same thing. They just meditate, and it's still one long day. But basically, we don't have time, or maybe we are not used to do all those things patiently for a long period of time. But those practices that they did, and meditation, actually, we can call regular or standard practices of Buddhist monks. What was brought here was slightly different, and those, let's call them formal meditations, the most, and well, let's say best known and explored is body scan, that we all been through at least twice or 3 times in our lives. I remember my first time. Actually, I can't remember my first time when I did this practice, because I fell asleep after 2 minutes into a body scan, which was great sleep, but it took me 8 or 9 times actually to build up my stamina, well, meditation stamina, to actually go through the whole process, which basically just proves that it's almost like going to a gym. As long as you do it, you'll be fine. Just practice, keep going, and you'll be actually doing things, as I said, without judgment, and there is no right or wrong way. Clearly, getting back to those Buddhist monks, what they had back then, they had people who lived nearby, and those villages, they had their families, they had their work, they had different things, but they did something similar. They were actually trying to meditate, or they were trying to be, let's say, present in every particular moment, to fully enjoy their lives. So that's something that we'll explore today a bit more. And I believe that actually that's very useful for all of us in this particular situation. Of course, not to forget that mindfulness as such, since it was brought to Western world in late 70s, was developed into MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction, or mindfulness-based interventions like MBCT for cognitive behavior and a few other things. But clearly, mindfulness has shown to be beneficial for a wide range of conditions like stress, anxiety, panic attacks, depression, chronic pain, high blood pressure, for example. But we have to focus on, well, this particular moment. So what I would like to do, actually, I would like to invite you to, well, if possible, to, well, put your feet flat on the floor. And let's do a brief mindfulness practice, which basically goes like this. Just take a moment to settle in your body into a nice and comfortable position. You can close your eyes or keep them slightly open, with a soft focus looking downward a few feet in front of you, or your keyboard screen in this sort of online era. Allow your spine to lift and your shoulders to soften. Today, we will practice 3 mindful breaths. Begin by taking a slow, gentle breath. Just inhale, resting your attention to the sensation of air passing over your nostrils and filling your chest and abdomen. Notice where the breath ends and shift back through a slow, gentle exhale. Notice the sensations in your body as the air passes back out. Rest for a moment and begin again. Long, slow inhale, directing your attention to the sensation of air as you breathe in, and long, slow exhale, noticing sensations within your body. And once again, take the breath in and out. Okie doke. Well, I told you we'll be using some props. So what I'll do, just for a brief second, I'm going to, unmute you all. So I'd like to hear your thoughts or feelings, sensations that you just had. How was it? Was it actually hard to do this exercise, please?
I think it always surprises me how quickly you can get into a really grounded and relaxed state, actually, just from just from breathing like that, actually.
Yes. And it just proves that basically with 3 breaths in and out in less than 30 seconds, we can not only ground ourselves, but relax and actually almost like restart the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Whatever was going on before, we can just focus on that particular moment where we are, how we feel, and we can almost like let everything go in less than 30 seconds. Anyone else who would like to share their experience? Maybe they fall asleep.
It's Nikki. Can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I just pressed the space bar, so obviously it does work, whoever said that. Yeah, I've been doing this a lot, in the present situation. And I've got this little phrase I picked up somewhere that it's doing that long exhale is a natural tranquilizer. And it really is. It is a tranquilizer. It actually does slow your heartbeat via your breath. And yes. I think that's a lovely way to look at it. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Hey,
Who else?
Yeah. Well, I didn't fall asleep, but I was close. But I've been doing this for I don't know, 4 or 5 years. So it's easy to relax and to be grounded. It's not it doesn't take an effort.
Of course, it's almost like going to a gym.
Yeah. Not only that, you just have to remember in the crucial moment to do that. That's the point.
Yes.
Everybody can do that before they go to sleep. It's easy.
That's right.
Well, I have to say I've attended quite a few mindfulness courses, and I'm quite evangelical about mindfulness. I personally benefit a lot from it, but I have to admit that I probably in all the years, so like I said, I've been to several courses. In all that time, I think I've done a proper guided meditation at home, like listening on YouTube, like a body scan, probably 3 times in my life. And I know it's a very poor excuse that I don't have time. And yet I really benefit from mindfulness because I sort of train myself to do these very quick check-ins, which can be like 30 seconds or 1 minute, to just check in with myself, to pay attention, to take a few mindful breaths. And it has an amazing effect to help me be grounded, especially in stressful situations. And, it does the job. So I'm probably not the best person to promote sort of mindfulness courses as such, but it really, I think it really works for me, these kind of very short mindful snippets. Yeah.
I think what's nice is when you know, like you say, the short snit, just in that time, it kind of really feels like you're kind of coming home to yourself.
Mm.
You know? And that's a really nice sleep feeling.
That's right. But let's see actually if there is something that we can do in short period of time, especially, well in this particular situation of sort of, well, social distancing or self-isolation. And firstly, I start with, let's say, all those words that we are using and we are basically bombarded by social media or any other sort of mainstream media about social distancing or self-isolation. Firstly, all those words that we're using, they're a bit harsh, I believe, because, well, self-distancing, it starts feeling after some time that actually you're basically, well, you're punishing yourself not to be around people that you love or like, or maybe you're just trying to, well, protect yourself from, let's say, well, a virus. Obviously, yes, we are trying to do that, but still at the same time, because we are isolated, we don't think that actually anyone else can help us, because we are in a way becoming lonely, separated from, let's say, real world. So by doing different things, by changing, let's call them labels, but by changing those labels, we can just soften this whole approach. And in terms of mindfulness practice and mindfulness of, well, informal practices, and that's something that I would like to talk more about now, is actually there's quite a few things we can do. And most of us, well, till last couple of weeks, we've been doing different things, going to work, driving a car, I don't know, washing dishes, different things. And we most of the time, we were not aware of actually what was going on. How many times you've been going somewhere, let's say driving a car, and basically from A to B, because you know the road and you'll be driving every day, maybe to work, how many times actually you went to work and said, oh, what happened? Actually, I can't remember if I stopped in, I don't know, here or there, or if I turned left or right, because basically we're all on our autopilot. Now, I think this is really good thing to reset this autopilot, to start working on actually one thing at a time, because now we have time to practice. And clearly, people who are saying, oh, well, I don't know how to, well, just start, I don't know, by cooking or preparing food, just by chopping vegetables, for example. Just be a bit more observant. Think about what you're going to do next, how you're going to actually chop, how you're going to cut, what are you going to do. Just notice what is going on. And then you might start noticing that there is different sound when you're chopping, I don't know, potatoes comparing to, well, tomato sound. So just play with those things. Be present in every particular moment. And that's one of the key things to be mindful in every particular moment. Even when you're reading a book. Yes, you can read a book, and then it happened to me, most likely happened to some of you, if not all, that actually you start reading a book, and then after some time, yes, you can see those words, you can see letters, but you don't know what is going on. You just lost the plot. And again, that's absolutely fine. Just take a deep breath and reset. Just bring back your attention to that particular page you're reading, which is absolutely fine, which is always nice actually to say, oh, hold on, I don't know what's going on. Let me go, well, a bit back to see what I actually missed by reading, being on the autopilot. And there is no judgment with that particular situation. Whatever you do, allow yourself to be either present or attempting to be actually present in a particular moment. And that's absolutely fine. You can do it through like this brief exercise we just did, just taking 3 slow breaths, and in less than 30 seconds, you'll be actually being, let's say, well, fully present in that situation, whatever that might be. Of course, I always tend to say, and I'm so sorry that actually this is not live in terms of we being in the same room, but I always doing this almost like a joke. Whatever you do whilst meditating, please do not operate heavy machinery or drive a car. Clearly now there is no way that we can actually, well, operate heavy machinery unless you work from home and you just, well, you're one of those guys who are driving big truck or something, or trying to, well, see what neighbors are doing on the other side of the wall. Just whatever you do, please do one thing at a time. Allow yourself to be present and allow yourself actually to be fully aware of what is going on. So there's one more exercise I like to actually, well, go with you today. And literally it goes like this. Just take a deep breath in and hold for 3 seconds. Okay, just, and 1, 2, 3, and out. Okay. So question for all of you is, clearly you don't have to answer, but just notice if your eyes were closed or open. Okay, so that's first step for you to start recognizing what works actually for you. When you take this deep breath in, do you close your eyes or you keep them open? That should be your first step to every mindfulness exercise. Understand actually what feels good for you, because keeping your eyes closed or open means that actually your body already knew the answer in that particular, let's say, hard or stressful or strange situation that you wanted to overcome. And that's good first step. Okay. And now second step in this exercise, when you just had your deep breath in and you noticed actually that your eyes were closed or open. Okay, let's do it one more time and we'll go a step further. So, okay, so take a deep breath in and out. Okay, and maybe this time you've noticed actually if your shoulders moved or not, if you raised your shoulders or if they dropped. Okay, do it one more time. Just notice, what do you do when you take this deep breath in? And out. So how was it this time? So we had this first step of taking deep breath in, your eyes were closed or not, your shoulders went up or down. So ask yourself, how was it? Was it relaxing or was it odd? Was it strange? How was it for you then? Okay. And then we'll add one more step in addition to that. So again, take a deep breath in and out. Okay. And now you might actually notice that, well, something happened with your belly. So what happened with it? When you take a deep breath in, what is the movement in your belly then? Okay, and how does it feel? Okay, so basically in one breath in and out, you can do literally a body scan, a basic body scan of what is going on. With your eyes closed or open, if your shoulders are going up or down, and if your belly is moving or not. And then when you feel all that in one tiny little second, then you might start noticing what is going on, let's say with your jaw, for example. Okay, how does it feel? Is there any tension or not? Okay, and if there is tension, okay, you can move your jaw just to relax that tension a bit. Yeah, that's right. And everything is basically in one tiny little second, and then let's say 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds to notice actually if there is tension in your jaw or anywhere else in your body. So clearly we can practice mindfulness in less than 5 seconds even. And I believe that this exercise might be useful for you. So I will unmute you all again just to hear your thoughts and feelings. Please share and contribute.
Yes, it's good to be reminded on how to do it because it's easy to forget.
That's right.
But with like knowing the movement, it's good.
What do you do if you notice some tension, like in your belly?
Okay, now we are getting to basics of mindfulness, Sue, which is accepting things, and there is no right or wrong thing, or there is no judgment at all. So basically, if the tension is there, yes, it's a factual thing. It is there. So then you can start actually resolving that tension by doing either different things, or maybe bringing your attention to that particular emotion that actually created that tension, let's say, in your belly, for example. It's a good thing to notice whatever it is there. Anyone else?
I notice actually very often whenever I do this kind of exercise, I notice, for example, tension here. And the moment I notice it, I'm then able to actually let go and let my shoulders drop.
That's right.
So sometimes just by bringing attention there, it kind of resolves. Not always, obviously, depends what the cause is, but specifically with shoulders, I can definitely will it to go away, just if I become aware of it.
Yes. Well, there is one easy thing to do, and again, it can be incorporated in this, let's say, informal 3-second mindfulness exercise, which basically is if and before you start doing any practice, you can just, raise your shoulders and drop them, and then you can actually take a deep breath in. Just allow yourself that drop. It's almost like, letting everything go before you start this particular exercise. Anyone else? Who else?
I actually just found that really relaxing, even though I was just clearing up. I was standing still and doing the couple of minutes, the big breath. And the second time round, I did notice that my shoulders went up. So I deliberately put them down, and I could feel the weight flowing away from me. That was lovely.
That's right. Thank you. Well, and that's how it works, because we can do and we can practice specifically those, let's call them informal practices, wherever we are apart. And I'm getting back to, unless we're driving a car or operating heavy machinery. So being present actually means that we can notice few things. We can, for example, one of the exercises, and it can be, apart from chopping vegetables, for example, you can do puzzles, and you know how that goes, and that's something that we do anyways. So you take this puzzle and you look at that piece, and you're trying to find where actually this particular piece can be fitted in, and you're looking at it and you're saying, okay, so let me take a glance over the photo so I can actually see what the picture I'm trying to create. And that's basically, in its own way, it is a mindfulness exercise. But allow yourself at the same particular time to feel how it feels. Clearly doing puzzles, and then you do puzzles for hours, and then you can't find particular piece, can be really upsetting. But then again, use that as an opportunity to practice mindfulness even more. And then again, just relax, just let everything go. And then you'll find that peace clearly without any tension. Yes. There is one more thing I wanted to share today with you. And basically it's easy, apart from being present all the time.
Can I just sort of barge in? I'm just thinking technically, I don't know what view the rest of you are having, but I've put myself on I put my screen on a gallery view. And I think if we're on a gallery view, whoever, you don't have to mute and unmute people. I mean, people can mute and unmute themselves. Yeah. But that way people can, maybe if they have questions or comments, they can say straight away. How do you feel about that?
That will be fine, but I have to actually go because of the live session we are sort of okay. Yeah, I have to go for this particular one. Sorry.
Okay, fine.
Yes. Otherwise, we have the whole screen with loads of thumbnails, and nothing will happen on this sort of a live session. So we have a few people watching us over Facebook, and they'll be like, "Oh, what's going on?" Yeah. So they'll be actually doing this sort of puzzle. Who is doing it talking? So yeah. But anyways, getting back to, apart from being present and doing different things, clearly allow yourself to be curious, which is again a very useful tool or let's say habits to be curious, not nosy, but curious. Now there's a big difference. I know someone who thinks it's very curious, but actually that person is very annoying and very nosy. Well, anyways, so I'm not going to talk about that person, but clearly you can be curious about things, and you can incorporate that sort of curiosity in everyday sort of life, different things like for example, when you hear a new piece of music, even though if you don't like that particular style of music, but you can still be curious to see actually, well, maybe you can pay attention to words just to hear what is going on. I know, well, for fact that, well, some people, I don't know why, but they don't like rap music, especially those sort of, well, late 80s, early 90s rap music, which is, well, from my perspective, just fine. But some people are quite, well, disgusted by it. However, if they'd be curious, as I was, and still am, and if you pay attention to words, you might, well, find it very, well, interesting how some of the words can be, well, put together and make sense, even though everything sounds like a horrible noise. If you, let's say, don't like that particular style of music. I'm just joking, but still, allow yourself to be curious. That's one of those things that actually brings you to that particular moment. Again, we are getting back to presence. So being curious, for example, whenever I walk by the seafront where I live, and seafront is always, that particular patch is always the same. So I'm walking there, and that's absolutely fine. That patch is always the same. Hove lawns, always the same. But still, if I'm not curious, I'll be bored. So I want to see actually what is going on. Maybe I want to see, oh, what happened to that particular bench? Or maybe I'll this time sit on next bench, or something else, just to make things easier for me to notice. So basically, by being curious, you're challenging yourself to be more present, to see actually what is going on. Or you can find out that maybe council actually, well, finally, yay, yeah, they did something about the benches by the seafront. You'll be like very pleased by the fact that actually now you can sit without tearing your clothes as however, getting back to mindfulness practices, and specifically informal ones. So being present and curious allows us actually to notice what is going on, not only within us, but actually around us. And then, as Sue mentioned this, what if I feel this, let's say, tension in my belly, or something else? That's absolutely fine, because clearly that leads us to another skill, mindful skill, which is acceptance. And that is I believe, most powerful form of everyday mindfulness when we practice acceptance. And clearly nowadays, within this particular situation, yes, we are forced to accept so many things. But how do we feel about those things? Not very well, I believe. But still, if we can practice acceptance, and if we can practice different ways of accepting this particular situation, that will actually allow us to not only to be calmer or more peaceful, but actually that will help us to all our inconveniences or frustrations will just go away, because we'll be able to find other things not only to do but to think about, that will bring so many different ideas to us, and all of a sudden we'll have more things to do or create, and we can become more creative by being more present and more curious, and of course practicing this, let's say, particular, I really like to call it the most powerful form of everyday mindfulness, which is acceptance. I'd like to share one more exercise with you now. And this particular exercise is one of those silly ones. I don't know if you have anything in front of you, or by you are, if you're drinking tea or coffee, that's not particularly good prop, and you'll find out in a second why. But I don't know if you have a pen or something else. Just take it Just hold that, whatever it is. Okay. Yeah, and notice what it is actually. Just look at the shape, the texture. Maybe it smells. I don't know. It's up to you. It depends what you're holding. Yeah. Just don't forget not to touch your face. Yeah. Corona. And then that particular thing, just throw away. Just check it somewhere in the corner of your room. Okay. So, and then again, I'll unmute you all just to ask you, how was it, this bizarre exercise? So what happened whilst you actually, well, throwing things? So what happened? Anyone?
It felt good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it because I do felt making with my felting needles. If I let go of my needles, I lose my sanity because that's how I keep well these days, making loads of felt flowers and matty. So
Yeah.
dropping, I'm struggling. I'm gonna need to breathe.
Yeah. Well, it will be different for all of us. It will be, well, different experience. But the best thing is actually the best thing is actually that we do.
Now everybody is talking.
Done, everybody's
Hold on. Something is going on. Hannah said, sorry, I missed it. No worries, Hannah. We'll do it again. We'll do it again in a second. We'll do it again, Hannah, in a second, because this was just, well, a trial session of this particular exercise, just to prove that actually you can have different feelings or let's say emotions, and you can be attached or not attached to different, well, objects. Just imagine how it works actually if you have particular, let's say, thoughts, or if you have particular feelings. And that basically means that we can practice as one of the mindfulness, well, skills, non-attachment to, let's say, things or emotions or feelings. Because if we feel them and see them as, let's say, as an object in any particular situation, then we can, as in our tiny little exercise, we can almost like in our mind's eye, take that particular object and see what is going on with it. What is the size, shape, color, texture? Meaning that actually by making them in something that we can measure and quantify, or even if it's tangible for us, at least in our mind's eye, then we can deal with it. Okay, so let's do this exercise one more time, but this time, think about any particular feeling, or let's say maybe you're thinking about something that actually was unpleasant, not very unpleasant. We are not going to go any, well, so not very deep into this session, but just briefly find something that was, let's say, a bit annoying, for example. Okay, and think about it for a brief second. And then we'll do this again, brief body scan. Just take a deep breath. In and out. And this time, just by thinking about this annoying moment, event, or feeling, allow yourself to actually, in your mind's eye, to see that particular annoying, whatever it is, as an object. Give it a shape, or color, or taste, whatever you like. Okay. And then you can allow yourself to feel how you feel about it. That's right. So you know how you feel about that annoying, whatever that annoying might be. That basically means that you're not attached to it anymore because you have additional opportunity to feel something about that annoying moments of your life. You're not attaching yourself, you're dissociating yourself from it. Then you can decide whether you're going to keep it or throw it away. And then you can ask yourself, how does it feel? And that's what I'm asking you now. So how does it feel then when you throw that annoying thing away?
Good.
Good. Yeah, I really like the enthusiasm of good.
It feels a lot lighter.
Yes. That's right. Because if we don't have this attachment to things or feelings, emotions, yes, then actually we can just breathe them away. We can throw them away.
Ah.
That's right.
I imagined a good feeling.
That's why I said find something which is slightly annoying just to begin with. Why would you be non-attached to something nice or positive? Yes. Now to answer some of the questions from the chat box. Everything is fine. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no judgment in any process that you do. Even let's say if you did and you picked a positive feeling, that's absolutely fine. Because clearly by choosing something nice and positive, you can still see it from every angle, every perspective, from each side. So you can actually then ask yourself, okay, so how does it feel then? How do I feel about this feeling, for example? And that's absolutely fine.
Sue asked a good question. So, because, yeah, I'm not sure about this short exercise we did just before.
Yeah.
The idea to embody the bad feeling. So,
sorry, I couldn't hear you. Sorry, can you repeat?
So, can you read Sue's question? I think it's, well, I have the same question actually.
Hold on, let me. Correct. That's right, Sue. Because by embodying it in that particular shape or form that you can, let's say, you can find in your mind, then you can deal with it.
Object.
You can. Sorry.
Oh right. So so is it the imaginary object? So
correct.
So to give the shape and
yes, that's right. Yes.
Firstly,
we did just an exercise for you to have this. Okay, I'll pick something and I'm just going to chuck it away. Otherwise, how would you actually do the same thing with imaginary objects in your mind? Mm. Anyone else? It's very complicated to go through group chat, Facebook, and everything else. I feel that actually I'm not completely mindful in this particular time because I'm trying to multitask, which is defeats the purpose. Anyways, so of course, practicing mindfulness every day, getting back to those Buddhist monks who were actually practicing mindfulness, meditating every day for 2, 3, 4, 5, 18 hours, 20 hours every day. Basically, we don't have, we can't do that for so many obvious reasons. So try to practice mindfulness as much as you can in terms of everyday, few informal things, few short breathing exercises, or even whilst I don't know, you can do it when you, let's say, prepare foods. If you do different things, you can, for example, I don't know, when you brush your teeth, or even even you actually, well, trying to, well, let's say go for a walk, be just quite mindful. And then, okay, in this particular time, you don't have enough time, just, okay, half an hour up to an hour, we can go out and exercise. So use that as an opportunity to be absolutely mindful and present. And the good thing is that actually you can practice all those mindful skills that we've been talking so far independently, and then you can do that as well together as sum of all those parts. Okay. Clearly, not to forget, people like to do proper sort of a meditation and body scan. So for those who are actually here to hear, well, something about body scan, yes, I'll do that bit as well. But again, as an informal practice, it won't last over a minute. Okay, because what is the point of, well, doing informal practices and if they last over a minute or two? So this time, everything starts with, if you can, in this particular moment, put your feet flat on the floor, please. Okay. And then just feel how it feels. Maybe you can wiggle with your toes. Okay, that's good. Good. And take a deep breath in. And notice that air that comes through your nose and goes to your lungs. And breathe out. And slowly, you can go from your toes and start noticing how your toes feel, ankles. And one more deep breath in. Shins and knees. Is there any tension in your legs? What about your hips? And take a deep breath in and out. What is the feeling within your shoulders, chest, belly? And take a deep breath in. Neck and jaws. And out. And this sound effect was just for those people who are actually conditioned to hear bells whilst meditating. Anyways, as someone who is, let's say, very famous and on telly hypnotist, as he would say, and now you're back in the room. Yeah, so you can open your eyes if your eyes were closed. If not, that's absolutely fine. Oh, there's one question here. So Adrian says, what about lucid dreaming so much? Part path creative process. Well, a good thing about creative process, or let's say lucid dreams, well, again, it is up to you. So you can notice how you feel about it. You can, again, be present and curious. Clearly, if you're trying to think or understand your dreams, or if you're trying to actually do something about them, there's additional, and maybe that can be useful for many people as well, as sort of, again, informal mindfulness practice. You can do journaling or creative writing, or you can draw things, you can do doodling or different things just by thinking about your, let's say, lucid dream that you had last night, for example.
No, I for me, sometimes when I'm out walking,
oh, I see,
ring around the house, that's when some of my most creative ideas come to me, and I'm not being mindful. Do you know what I mean? The process of walking or doing what I'm doing, sometimes that, you know, waking dreaming as a creative person, that's very often I'll get a line of a poem, or so I do resist mindfulness, I have to tell you the truth, because this being pulled constantly back in, where am I? And a friend once said to me, if you're not here, where are you? Where have you been? And quite often I've been off in some wonderful...
Believe it or not, I'm with you on that 100%. I understand absolutely now what you...
Right.
It happens to me all the time. It happens to me all the time. So what I do, and how, let me tell you how I use mindfulness to actually boost that, creative part when I'm not present. I'm using mindfulness actually to ground myself, to get myself back when I have to and need to do things that need to be done. Otherwise, I'll be always somewhere there, thinking, creating, and doing different things, having this sort of lucid moments.
Nice.
It is. That's so nice. But occasionally, believe it or not, and maybe we can agree on this one. Occasionally, we should be a bit present to be able to finish things that actually. So in that particular scenario, when you have all those moments, that's absolutely fine. You can have those, let's call them lucid moments, or in Latin, the expression is lucida intervala, and some people can call them daydreams, and that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. Allow yourself that as well. Clearly, and now I'm looking at there was a question about it. Yes, so yeah, it is okay. But yes, mindfulness can bring you back. Of course, it can bring you back. But now we are talking about particular moments of, let's say, your creative process, for example. So do you really want to be creative or being completely present? And maybe from your perspective, whilst you're present, you're not creative enough. Now, you have to find balance between those things. But still, you can use specific mindfulness practices, informal ones, to actually transfer your lucid moment into present, time and this particular moment, like, I don't know, journaling or creative writing or painting. So, and that's how you can actually put those two, let's say, different parts together and make it, much bigger and better for you personally. How about that,
Someone
Adrian?
singing outside my window.
Oh, that's really nice.
Not serenading me, it's just singing. It's just dreaming.
That's really nice. So what I'll do now, I'm going to again unmute you all, guys. So if you have any questions, or maybe someone else wants to share how was it during this sort of a brief body scan, and it lasted up to a minute. It was sort of guided micro body scan, but actually you can do it by yourself, for yourself, in less than a minute. Anyone? Hello.
Well, I just wanted to add that I'm totally with Adrian on this, because I like daydreaming. That's what relaxes me the most. And that's why initially I quite resisted mindfulness as well, because I thought, well, no, for me, de-stressing, is, to just look at the horizon or the sea and let my mind drift, or look at the olive tree in the garden and let the mind drift. But then I got into mindfulness. And like I say, I think these informal practices suit me much better, rather than playing YouTube and listening to like a half an hour guided meditation. So it works better, but yes, psychologically and neurologically they're very different processes. So daydreaming is a creative process, whereas mindfulness is very much about it strengthens the decision-making parts of the brain, the self-control and inhibition, which is really good in terms of putting all these ideas into action. And especially good, I think, in the moments of stress where you want to come back to yourself. So if it's a stressful situation, you can go way out, but then there's a danger you never come back. Or you want to be present, and regular mindfulness practice strengthens the brain muscle that can bring you back to yourself at times of anxiety and stress.
Correct.
Yeah. So.
There is one more thing before I finish my talk, and it will last for 30 seconds more. As we are all, in our houses, and most likely we are sending emails and messages and WhatsApps and Viber messages and all those texts to other people. Now, this is, again, informal mindfulness practice around those, well, emails and messages and texts. So basically it goes like this, and you can do it whenever you actually are writing an email or message to someone. So let's say that you're writing an email, and then you can compose an email. Okay, so compose an email or message or text, and then stop and take a long, deep breath. Pay attention to that breath. You can count to 5 on the inhale, and again on the exhale if you like. It's going to be maybe easier for you. And then think of the person to whom that email or message is going, and how you want them to receive your message. Could they misunderstand your words and become angry or offended, or think, I don't know, maybe you want to send them a more positive message, or maybe your intention was a bit more positive. And then look back at the draft of email or that particular message and change if you find it appropriate, and then send. Hopefully that will help you to, let's say, communicate easier with people in this particular situation of being, let's say, well, every day in your home and just messaging and texting people. Okay, so questions? Anyone before we finish? Well, at least this part of our stress busting evening.
All right, so actually I'm just looking at the time. So
yes,
I think it's time for the break. So before we start, I'm just uploading a file onto the group chat. So if people want to download it, it's there is information about the talk program. So yeah, you can look at it later. But shall we take about 5-minute break so people can, I don't know, just come for break if you want to have a tea. We'll leave obviously the room open so people can chat. Whoever doesn't want to go and make a cup of tea can stay and chat. And then after that, we'll have the second speaker, which I'm very, very excited to hear. We're having Lauren Stoney, who is, this is your second Stress Busters talk, isn't it? And very different, I imagine, from the first one, because it's a very, very different situation. Originally, this was supposed to be a different talk, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be about the lightning process, but tailoring it to the times. So.
Yeah. Okay, so 5 minutes, and maybe if we resume at 9:25, yes? Sorry, 8:25. I'm in a different time zone.